Hello, welcome everyone to our Action Coach business educational workshops and webinars that we are doing on a variety of different topics to help business owners to work smarter, not harder, so you can really enjoy more life. Today, we are going to be learning how to become team rich by building your team to grow your profits. So we're going to be talking about how to transform them into a championship team. So who is this webinar for? So I want you to think about this. Do you find it hard to maybe get and keep good employees, or maybe the employees that you do have, everybody's working in their own silos and no one's working towards a common goal, or you seem to be working harder and harder, but your business, your department maybe isn't growing as fast as you want, or maybe everything is good in the business, but you feel stuck and you can't really take it to the next level. Or maybe you're spending your times really during the day just putting out fires that just sort of pop out of nowhere. And then all this is really causing you to miss family events because you're spending so much time in your business. So hey, it doesn't have to be that way. So what I'm going to help you do over the next hour is to help you find the fastest and the easiest way to really increase your team engagement, to help you create that amazing team, which will free up your time, improve the profitability in your business, and most importantly, really help you be your best. Well, my name is Steve Goranson, and if you allow me, I'm going to be your coach for the next hour, 45 minutes or hour or so. I've owned just a little bit about my background. I've owned and operated the Jacksonville office of Action Coach for almost the past 18 years. We started in December of 2014. Action Coach itself, we are the world's largest coaching organization with over 1,000 offices in over 70 different countries around the world. There isn't a business situation, problem that we have not seen with our clients. So my job here today is, as your coach, is really, for the time that we have here together, is really to sharpen your business intuition by showing you some of the factors that will really make your business thrive and how to really create a high performance team by working on solutions that really matter. So I want to start off with this point. Really, what is failure? Really, the only failure is what? The only failure is the failure to what? Participate, right? How many of us have really failed, right? I know I've failed lots of times, but each of them is a learning experience. So really the point here is, if you're going to give 100%, you're going to get 100% back. So hope everybody to be able to feel free to participate here. If there's in the question section tab, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the question area. If you want to really, I guess that's the best place to put those. I will try to answer them as we go through the webinar, or if there's anything that I haven't answered, I will try to touch base with those at the end of the webinar itself. So what are you going to expect from today's webinar? I like to call them BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious, right? These are the aha moments where our brain makes a connection between two maybe previously unknown but unconnected bits of information, and our role is to help stimulate some of these, for you out there. I hope that makes sense. So what we're all about here today is to help you become team rich, right? So as we all know, what is team? Is together everyone achieves more. That all of us working together towards a common goal is greater than just one of us, right? And I think that's the key, that we want to do it. But the hard part is, how do we get there? How do we actually do this, right? So those are the things that we need to sort of sit down and focus on. So I want you to think about your team right now. Tell me, how is this a realistic quote? That most employees are motivated, energetic, committed, enthusiastic, and loyal. And if I could see your faces right now, you probably are cringing a little bit. It's like, yeah, I wish, right? But I forgot. Hold on a second. I forgot to finish the statement. except for those 8 hours that they work for you or for us, right? It's a famous quote from Tom Peters, the management guru. And so the question is are our employees, when they're when they're off the clock, they're fun, they're committed, they're loyal, they do lots of things, but then when they show up at work, there's some sort of a disconnect. So we're going to explore what this disconnect is and how to create these connections. So not only are they motivated and energetic and enthusiastic at home, but they're also when they show up for work the next day. And it all starts with this, the power of the point. What do I mean by this? It's probably, if you look at a team, there's certain team members that are just, well, energy vampires, right? If we're always sit down and we're looking at it, these are people who are below the point. They're blaming others. They're coming up with excuses, or they might be in denial themselves, right? Those are the people that we're always around, that they just suck the energy out of us and everyone that they come in contact with. Where then there's some employees, and these are the people that are totally disengaged within our organization. Then we have others that really are responsible for their actions. They're accountable for their results. And most importantly, they take ownership of the problem situation that come their way. They are totally engaged in your business operation. So the people that are below the point, they're powerless. They have that victim mentality, as you will, as opposed to when we come down and we're looking at it, the people that are above the point, they increase everyone's energy. So what would it be like if we had a team full of people that just hold on to that oar, and they're responsible, they're accountable, and they really take ownership? And it doesn't happen by accident. And I know, because I've seen my clients be able to sit down and move their team from this below this point to above this point. And sometimes it had to start with my client themselves, because they were always blaming their team. They were coming up with excuses, and they were denial that they were the ones that were bringing us down here. Because, if an employee makes a mistake and we go, why did you do that? Why do you keep coming? Why can't you get this right? Right. And so what they're going to do is they're going to blame, they're going to come up with excuses, they're going to be denial. These are judgmental questions. But if we sit down and take a look at it and say, all right, what could we have done differently to prevent this situation? Right? What were the things that was happening that caused this to happen? What are the things, how could we improve this? How could we improve the situation? These are learning-based questions. This is how we train our team to avoid doing the same mistakes over and over and over again, right? So it's how do we really take this power of the point and infuse it into our organization? So what I want to talk about, there's a quick question, is what is the meaning of life? And you're probably wondering, is what does that have to do with building a more engaged team? And when I say meaning of life, I'm not talking about the old Monty Python movie from the 70s. I know I'm aging myself a little bit, but why am I even asking this question? Because it really comes down to, as a business, shouldn't it just suck the life out of you, but our business should give us more life. So if we want meaning so what really gives us more meaning in life? Or maybe another question to ask is, really, what makes people the happiest? Because if we have happy people on our team, that's going to spread, right? And they're going to enjoy their work. Our clients are going to enjoy working with them. So what makes people happy? Is it money? Is it good health? Is it creating wealth? All these are important, and maybe more to some than others, but studies have shown, but the thing that really makes people the happiest is really meaningful and worthwhile relationships. See, this need is so powerful that what we're finding in today's society, people are flocking to social media sites to create connections. You'll even find introverts like me, I guess, there because they too have this need for relationships. But when people connect at work through a common goal, a strong bond is made. And then actually you could think about this is once that bond is made, that bond keeps employees, let's say, sticky to a business where they won't want to lose that their relationship in, and it helps to reduce turnover within an organization. But there's a downside to that as well too, is building relationships within a team is, sometimes the boss finds it hard to fire some people even when they no longer provide value into the company. So we want to really, and if you want to learn more about this, I would say go check out some of my short business tip videos on my website at actioncoachjax.com. I have one that's specifically there that talks about how do I fire loyal employees, but we don't have time to do that, but you could check it out there. So, so when you get to the website, just go to the business tip tab on the top of the page and you will be able to find it then. So the other thing too is that we need to be careful about talking about family relationships in so, the issue here is, every family has that old creepy Uncle Ted. We have to invite him to Thanksgiving dinner and everybody wishes it wasn't there, right? We can't fire Uncle Ted, can you, right? But you can, maybe instead of saying we want to have family be like family, is that we want a business based on family values. So the point here is that there is really no true relationships, whether it's professional or personal, where there's very little engagement because everyone is looking out for themselves. So let's take a look at it. When we talk about this disengagement, right? What are the things, what really is the cost of employee disengagement, right? It's really hard to define, but believe me, there is a true cost to your bottom line. So let's take a look at the different types of employee and different levels of engagement within our organization. So first we have highly disengaged employees. These are the people that do less than expected, right? They're showing up. These are the people that are just the energy vampires within their organization. Nothing we do or they do can make them happy. Then we have the disengaged. These are employees that just do what is expected. They just they're showing. These are the people that show up for a paycheck, right? It's it's crazy. They do their job, and sometimes it's like having these people there are great, but then there's a cost to both of these groups. But then we have these highly engaged, and these are people that do more than expected. They provide more value to your organization than you're actually compensating them for, right? And just because they want to do more. It's not about the money. It's about being able to do and to serve. So let's take a look at, there was a study that was done by Gallup a few years back. And what they did is they surveyed American businesses to see what level of engagement there are within the organization. And what we found is that 52% of American workforce is disengaged. They're just showing up for a paycheck. Then we have 18% that is actually disengaged. They're like throwing the anchor out of the boat and really just slowing us down, right? And then finally, we have 30% that are totally engaged. So have you ever really watched an Olympic rowing team? If just one person rows, the rowers just starts pulling faster, or maybe they raise their oar a little bit higher than everyone else, the boat is about to turn. It's going to get off course and it could eventually actually tip over. Well, our businesses are exactly the same thing. So, if we're not rowing together, we're going to head off course and we're going to probably flip over, right? So everybody within an organization has to be 100% engaged. And you're asking me, is that possible? Maybe not 100%, but you could sure flip this thing into where you're looking at 80% engagement and maybe 20% disengaged and getting rid of all the actively disengaged. But so how much is this disengagement costing us? Well, according to the same study, Gallup said that 34% of the disengaged employees, their salary is wasted. So think about that. For every $10,000 you pay a disengaged employee, it costs you $3,400. Or if you're paying this employee $50,000, that's $17,000. That could be almost a cost of an employee, right? So they're only working at 2/3 of their cylinders, if you will, right? So now we have these disengaged people that are on our team. How do we deal with these toxic employees? So I want you to think about this. What would you do if you had a staff member or employee that doesn't really fit your culture? They kind of sort of make you feel like they're holding you hostage, right? You'd rather let them go, but you feel like maybe you can't. Has that ever happened to any of us here? Of course it has, right? Well, right now, I'm going to be sharing with you some strategies to help you identify who these people are, what to do about it, and help illuminate what those costs of them being on your team really is, and what really the cost of staying in your business is. So if you ever felt like you're held hostages by a challenging employee, and I don't necessarily mean they're a bad person, but they're probably really good at what they do, but maybe they're not a good fit for the culture or our company, or a good team player. They might be like our kids, right? They're testing us and pushing our boundaries to see what they can get away with. Well, they know they got us because of their skill level, and we just can't, and we just really let them get away with it. Think about it. So the challenge with these folks is, if you think about it, the challenge is not them, it's really us. We don't want to let them go because they're really good at what they do, but they're a challenge because they don't get along with everyone else. They have what I was been referring to as a me mentality and not a we mentality. So does that make sense? So let's take a look and let's break down these different employees so you can sort of see what the effects are. So I've created this grid here. It's a 2x2 grid. On the bottom of the grid axis here is our attitude. On the right side is, and it's on the right side, we sort of see they have a better attitude. On the left side is a not so good attitude. On the vertical axis, is their skill level. On the lower end, it's they don't have that great of a skill. On the top end, they have very good skill. So the question is where do we put, in what quadrant do we put our employees? How do we quantify an A player in our organization? Well, I like to think that my A players have a great attitude and great skill. So the A players are easy. They're going to end up in the top right corner. So now we have these D players, right? Now the D players are the ones that they probably were a hiring mistake in the beginning. We probably should have let them go to pursue success somewhere else. And we really should have probably have brought them into our organization in the first place. Maybe we just needed a body, right? But it's pretty easy to say that they're low skill and they have a poor attitude. So they're also easy. They're going to be down in the bottom left. And these are the people that are very easily identified as these are the people that don't belong in our organization and we should let them go, right? Those are the easiest people to let go of. So now the really question is, this is where it gets tricky. Where do we put B players? See, some business owners, when I ask the question, well, they say, well, they have a good skill. You have to be a good skill to be a B. But, so when you think about it that way, I'm going to put them in the top left. And I'm going to counter that. I'd like to say is I'm going to put them down into the bottom right because they're B players because they have a great attitude. They have some skills, but they haven't developed all their skills yet. Right? So they have potential, and that's what makes them a B player, right? So now that leaves the C player to go into the top left. These are the people that have that great skill, but their attitude isn't where it needs to be, right? This is what we've been talking about. So the question happens, and this is where the challenges come in the organization, is what happens if we keep C players in our organization? And guess what? most of us, most business owners do, because as I've been talking about, they're difficult to get rid of because they have this great skill set. And we're afraid that if we let them go, we're not going to know what's going to happen, who's going to fill in for that skill set, and when they're gone. So let's look at this scenario. Imagine if you put an A player and a C player together. So we know the C player doesn't have a great attitude. They're pressing buttons, they're taking advantage a little bit, they're trying to push these boundaries, while the C player, if they're partnered with an A player who's actually doing a great job, they have that great attitude, and, they're playing by all the rules. But then they start seeing the C player is not doing the same things as they are. They're getting some good results, but they're not playing by the same rule book, right? And now the A player, when they have prolonged exposure to the C player, they might start to morph into the C because they're starting to have a little bit of a negative attitude. So that attitude of entitlement or pushing the boundaries and getting away with things, it's pretty infectious. It can affect other people because they see other people getting away with doing less and less contribution and less teamwork, and they're just getting away with it. Why should I work so hard? So remember, whatever we allow, we encourage. So if you let that C player continue like that, then we're going to see that it's, you have the possibility of that A player being affected negatively. Now, the thing is a person can easily shift another's attitude downward. But the point I want to make here is it's a lot more difficult to shift our attitude into the positive. So this is why the C players never want to have get better in terms of attitude, because they don't think they have a problem. And maybe they not, but they're still maybe just not the right fit for our organization. So we want to make sure that we don't keep our C players on, because they will have an impact with our A players, and that's going to be really bad. That's going to cost us a lot. So now what happens if you have that C player and it's coupled up with a B player? Well, remember, the B player has that great attitude, but they haven't developed that skill level yet. And they really don't excel in their role yet. But if they're starting to hang around with that C player, they're going to start developing bad habits. They're going to start having an attitude change as well, which means that player is not going to morph in. The B player doesn't morph into a C because they don't have that skill level. They're going to morph into a D player. And now we got a problem. We have fewer Bs and we have more Ds, and we're going to have a lot of turnover issues and productivity issues as well. And then conversely, if you have a B player and the B player is hanging out with an A player, another person that has a great attitude, and they're probably going to want to actually mentor them and help them out a little bit. The B player wants to get better because they have this great attitude. So if you pair up a B and an A, the B is going to get better. If we pair either an A or a B with the C, they're going to be exposed to, and really expose them in the organization. Their attitude is going to shift to the negative, right? They're going to be below that point. So I hope that this tool here has been sort of really helpful in terms of helping you being able to determine, who do you have on your team? What are the A's and B's and the C players? And also the last thing I want to point out here is, when you finally realize this and you let those C player goes because you finally realize that they're not a good fit, you're going to see that your A players and your B players are probably going to be coming up to you and thank you, because they've been exposed to all this negativity and this poor attitude, and they've been wondering what is taking you so long to get rid of this person. So how do we create a positive attitude, a good attitude within it? How do we develop engagement? Because engagement within our organization, engagement in culture is really the number one necessity in today's workforce. People want to belong to something greater. So when we sit down and we think about this, you know, what do you think your disengaged employees are doing, right? You know, they're watching the clock. Maybe they're taking long lunch breaks or cigarette breaks or just general breaks. They're spending their time, but they're focusing on unimportant issues that they actually have no control over. So they start playing the victim, they're blaming others, and they become very judgmental, right? And they're not providing a really good value for your investment into them. As opposed to now, when we have a team of highly engaged employees, what are they doing, right? You know, these people are proactive. They look at learning as really as an opportunity for growth. They're looking to grow. They're looking to become more. They want to take on more responsibility. They want to be accountable for the results that you expect of them, and they're going to take ownership of those challenges and really move forward and help you move your organization forward. So, but the thing is that, so how do we get more engagement about our teams? We have to do more team training. But I want to talk about it is team training is really the less desirable way to learn. Training is good when you have a specific a skill, but you can't train engagement, right? Let's take a look at this. If you can't train engagement, it has to really be developed. Training is transactional, where we take a look at engagement is more transformation, right? How do we transform our ideas and our passions and stuff from that negative into a positive? It's not that we need more information. That's what we need when we do skill, but we need more action. What are the things that we could do that will envelop engagement? Engaging is engaging each other. It's really most importantly towards a common goal. So if you sit down and you take a look at this and think about when people first come into your organization, they come in as sheep. They're just following the pack. They don't know they're just trying to figure out, hey, what are the rules of the game? How do I, what am I supposed to do to make sure I don't get killed in this organization and stepped all over, right? But then once they figure that out, it's all about me. What do I need to do to succeed? It's either me or someone else. But that stifles your growth. You can only grow so far. So then, now if we can engage into a we mentality, where all of us is smarter than one of us, that each of us can help us to the company attain their vision and their goal, as well as each of us helping each other achieve our own personal goals, that's when engagement is coming in. And that's where it's most successful. So when we take a look at this, in this model, there's 6 different levels of employee engagement. We have the rebel, or these are the people that are about to quit. Those are probably the D players. And we have the conscientious disobedience in there as well. And then you have somebody that's a willing accomplice. They just sort of show up, do their job. And then there's somebody who's a little bit better, right? They have a cheerful, they're positive in there, and they're trying to do, but they still haven't really totally bought in. But then you have the wholeheartedly committed people, and have some employees that have this creative excitement, if you will, right? And when we sit down and take a look at it, the bottom 3, these are the people that are disengaged, are not overall concerned about how does what I do benefit not only the organization, but the people around me, but our society as well, or my community, right? So up here, this is where we are engaged. And it starts off with just cheerful cooperation. Yeah, they have a good attitude, but then how do we get them to be really committed to our vision and mission of what we're trying to achieve within our organization? And then how do we get them to be in that level of creative and excitement that they have as much passion about a business as the CEO or the business owner themselves? And the key is we have to activate the heart. And because the heart is the seat of our emotions. So when we sit down, and there's exercises that I do to help enhance this. And when I'm dealing with employees, and what I like to call is a team alignment, is how do we align our team to the overall goals and vision and mission of the organization. Is I'll ask the key team players is to really create a list of what are the things that are slowing us down as an organization. What are the areas that we need to improve? And so once we get this long list, I say, okay, let's take a look at what these issues are. And once you have that list and you break them down into two different categories, so there are going to be some brain issues and heart issues. You see, the brain issues, these are the processes, our systems, the management structure, our particular products and services that we sell, or the procedures that's going on. But the heart is the behaviors of how we act towards each other, our engagement towards each other, how we communicate with each other, the leadership, the culture of the organization. And see, the thing is that you cannot fix the brain issues until you fix the heart issues. You need to develop a culture that promotes learning and improvement. You need to develop a list of what I like to call is agreed upon success behaviors. And these could be anywhere from 5 to 10 behaviors that we are all going to agree upon. And that these behaviors are going to be how we define us as a company, how we as a team act towards each other, how as a team do we act towards our customers and towards our competitors and in our community as well. And once we define these are going to be the behaviors that we interview for, right? And we're going to put people in these situations and see how they would handle and live these behaviors. So to give you an example of what I'm talking about here's an example of two different clients. They're similar behaviors, but they're different. And each of them are focused a little bit different based on really the organization. So, and the business owner itself. So in one, we have, pursuing excellence, doing what's right. Before I go in there, it's like, a lot of times we have companies that have points of culture, right? And like we know Enron in their office in, I think it was Houston or Dallas, someplace in Texas, when you walk into their office, engraved in marble behind the receptionist desk is all their points of culture. And one of them was integrity. Well, obviously they didn't live that. So how do we take these behaviors? How do we get those points of culture off of the wall and then get them ingrained into our employees so they are part of us? And a part of that is getting them to understand what those points of culture are and turn them into behaviors. So if I asked you what integrity is, I bet you everybody on this webinar can give me a different answer. But if you bring it down, what this client came down and said, it's doing what's right. When I see someone doing what's right, I'm going to say that person has integrity, right? A friend of mine once said to me that he golfs a lot on business, and he can go, I could tell the character of an individual based on, how they play the game of golf. It's like, he said that one guy that he always plays golf with, he always put his marker on the green in front of the ball. But then when he puts his ball back down, he puts the ball in front of the marker. And it's that little inch that makes a difference, but people notice those things, right? So the other one they have here is being positive, being proactive, forward thinking, helping others to get what they want, embracing joy and cooperation, bringing growth, pursuing growth and learning, bringing our best every day, listening to understand, not to respond, right? Putting family first. These are the things that are important to them, right? And then, so now I'm going to take you a look at a different company and sort of see how they're similar, but to them the behaviors are different. So here is be open to learn, teach, and grow. Believe in excellence and results. Be kind, respectful, humble. Be loyal to each other. Be grateful. Work hard. Have fun. Be safe, right? Be accountable to the end result. Dream big. Achieve more. Be part of something bigger. Become family. So what we sit down and we look at these, now we need to open up conversations, especially during the interview process, and saying, tell me a little bit about what were the last books you read? What was the last training sessions? Because you want to see how well that they're living in that, right? And what are things that you were grateful in your life, right? And so ask questions to see how they live these points of culture. And I'll come back and I'm going to talk a little bit more about these when I give a little bit of case studies towards the end. So we come down and we're looking here at 6 keys to a winning team as we're pulling all what we've talked about together here. So it really starts off with strong leadership. It starts off with you. If you are consistently below the point and blaming others, coming up with excuses or denial, it's not showing strong leadership, right? There's a difference between a leader and a manager. I have a whole other workshop that really talks about that. But what we want to sit down and take a look at is a leader will lead them towards a vision, right? A manager will manage things and make sure that specific tasks are getting done on time, on budget, and whatnot. But to create a winning team, you need strong leadership, and they need to create a common goal. We need to develop rules of the game and an action plan. So what do I mean by a common goal? If your goal of an organization is we want to be a $10 million company, a $100 million company, whatever it is, a $1 million company, is telling your employees, I'm here to help you get rich, right? A common goal is something that everybody could really attach themselves through and to really engage them in the organization, in the goal. So like when I was working with a client that I've been working with for 15 years, when I started with them, they had 30 employees. Now they have 60 employees in Rising. And when I asked them what their common goal was, they really couldn't give me any at all. So what we did is I said, well, I'm going to give you a common goal, is because everybody wants to work for the best. So what happens if our common goal is we want to be known as the best? This was a landscape design company here in Jacksonville. If you want to be the best, what does that look like, right? Once we define what that looks like, and we get the team to say, hey, this is what the best in our industry looks like, then we get them to define, to sort of say, how well are we doing these? And then once we sit down and we take a look, and we say, okay, which one of these, if we worked on, will have the biggest impact to our organization? Now, what do we need to do to improve from this level to this level? So they have created this action plan. The rules of the game, those are our success behaviors, right? Now we're helping them put together this action plan, and we have to really support some risk taking and let them go out to start to achieve it. Obviously, this plan, it has to be aligned to your vision, your goals, and what you're trying to create the company. But we all want to create and be known as the best in our industry, right? And supporting risk taking is know that they're going to make a mistake. So instead of when they make a mistake and they're learning and they're trying to grow, whenever we push our boundaries, we're going to make mistakes. That's where learning comes from. But if we're going to sort of be judgmental on them, so it's like, why are you making mistakes? And it's all this other stuff, instead of saying, hey, am I contributing to that? Or going in and taking a look at and saying, okay, what could we have done differently? So I have a client that at the end of every project that's on, he sits his team down, his leadership team on, and says, what could we have done to improve this project? What could we have done to get this project done faster? What could we have done to increase the profitability of the business? So it's not looking for blame, but just sort of looking at identify what were the bottlenecks, and that awareness will help it. And then it gets, again, that's about having that culture of constant improvement and learning and whatnot. And then the final key here is we need to have 100% involvement. If we don't have 100% involvement, what happens is those B players or those C players are now affecting our A and B players and sucking them down, right? So we need, if we don't have that B player doesn't buy, or the C player doesn't buy in, we definitely need to let them go, right? Bad apple spoils the whole barrel. So when we sit down and we talk about creating winning teams, is we need to get the right people on the bus. So if you want A players on your team, I'm going to ask you this question first. Is I want you to think about this. If you could start your business, your department again right now from scratch, right? How many people, including yourself, would you not rehire? Interesting question, isn't it? So now if you want to, so think about it this way, if you want to now attract the best in the industry to come to work for you, is your company a company that they would want to work for? How do we create a company that they would want to come? So now our focus of building a company, the question switches, is how do I build a company that the best in the industry would want to work for? What would that look like? And I think that's the key, because when it's recruitment, it's all about attraction marketing. It's attracting the best, because once you get the reputation, everybody wants to work for you. So then now you have the ability to pick the best from the best, and everybody else gets everybody else. So with my client that's they're getting some of the best people with the best attitudes in the landscape industry, because they've heard about the reputation and the teams and the things that they do to really create an engaged atmosphere that has family values. So when we're sitting down and we're hiring people, we want to create 16 cylinders of high performances. We want to have that highly engaged employee. So when we sit down and look at it, of those 16, only 6 of them is our mind and our body, right? This is not about the attitude. This is just our skill level and a little bit about having the mindset and whatnot. But and being able to think properly and whatnot. But the other 10, 2/3 of them, is about having the heart and the spirit. Because if you go in and you can hire for heart and spirit, you should be able to train the body and the mind, right? And that body and the mind, and training that body and the mind, that's the job of your managers. The leaders of your organization. You are there to enroll and inspire your team towards that vision, that common goal that you're all that you're all trying to go after. Hope that makes sense to everybody, right? So, there's other tools. It's not all intuitive. There's tools that I use that I help my clients with. There's one is that I like using. There's a zillion of them out there. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. I like using the DISC. And the DISC really is showing observable behaviors and emotion. And basically what we're talking about is 4 different communication styles. And if we understand what our communication style is and that of our employees, we can now start being able to communicate better. Because if we understand how our employees, or each individual employee, communicates, and we now adapt our communication style to theirs, we start to build trust with them. They start feeling, after I had trained clients to do this and I started talking to their employees, the responses I got is, oh, they're finally listening to us, right? They were always listening. It was just the communication. It was like they were talking English and they were just hearing French, right? It didn't make any difference. So the other one is, okay, we have these behaviors, but what motivates the behaviors, right? And what are the values that really drive these emotional behaviors? So there's 7 different basic values or motivators that will motivate a person's behavior. And once we understand this, we can now see, does this person fit their right the right profile? And I'm going to give you an example in here. So we have one is economic. So on the high end of economic is that person is looking for a real high return on the investment. On the low end, it's not that the person's bad. It's just they're happy with what they got. They don't need to get any more. They don't have that desire as much as somebody that's looking, has a high drive to always want more and more and more, right? And there's no wrong or right. That's just who that person is, right? Well, now you have another motivator. It's altruistic, right? The altruistic person is somebody that will give their shirt off the back, and someone else is they're happy with what they have again. right? Not saying that they're selfish, but it's like, okay, I'm comfortable with me. So if you have somebody that has a low economic motivator and a high altruistic motivator, what position would you not want them to be in? And I would say sales, because that person would have way too much empathy for everyone that's saying, oh, that's way too expensive. And so they're not looking, they don't have that economic driver looking to be able to achieve more, and helping that person saying, hey, I can get you this at a lower price, but it's not going to get you the same value. But if you have somebody who has a high economic value, it's like, yeah, you need this, even though this is cheaper, but you will get more out of this thing. The other person's going to have too much empathy and say, oh, it's too expensive, right? So I understand and try to now negotiate with you to get a lower price. So it's just a basic example. But the thing to really sit down and to think about is that when our disc and our motivators are aligned, then that person has a very personal synergy, especially on that particular role that they play in the organization. And then also our disc and motivators, when they're not aligned, in alignment, then they're causing personal conflict and tension and whatnot within the organization. So this isn't enough to tell you all about DISC and motivators, but I wanted to at least give you an overview. And if you want to get a taste of what the DISC is and what your DISC communication profile is, you can get a free DISC assessment by just going to this URL up here, stevebornson.actioncoach.com/free-disc.profile. Let me go ahead and I'm going to post that in the chat so everybody could get that as well. All right, fantastic. So, all right, there we go. So let's take a look at it. So this is an organization. This is one of my clients that I was talking about. And this was at one of their team alignment days. And actually, I'll tell you, when I first did this, and it was a bunch of landscapers and guys pushing lawnmowers and digging ditches. And it's like, how are they going to adapt to this stuff? Are they going to really get it? And the thing is that when you sit back and go back, what I started this conversation with is people want meaningful relationships. This is where we got them to develop meaningful relationships, because they had, under this one organization, they have 3 different departments. And a lot of times there was some connection between the departments, but a lot of times the departments worked in their own silos. So by doing some of these events and these workshops together, we were able to break those communication barriers down, and they felt like they're part now of a greater team, right? And these are the people that we were talking about, that they started at 30 and now they're at 60 people. And this is a place that people want to come and work. Obviously, yeah, they're still having challenges of finding good people, but they're getting great referrals and getting people from other places, right? From their competitors are coming to come in. And the people that their competitors usually take are usually the C players. Isn't that interesting, right? They're good skills, but they don't have the right attitude. So part of the things that we do here is during these things is they award everybody by the people that live each of the success behaviors. So who takes ownership of each of those things and lives them without the company, and who's the person that really, that when they talk, they do what they say, that has that positive attitude, whatever those different success behaviors are. And it's a great way of standing out among their peers, and also allows their peers to be a little envied to sort of emulate them, right? Here's another organization that I worked with many years, and we developed a great team. And actually the first time when we sat down and we looked at assessments and stuff, and the first one we did, we hired this guy, and he goes, according to this profile, you are the perfect fit for my organization. I could not see why you would not want to come to work for us. And he was absolutely right, because this guy is now his second in command was his second in the command in the organization, and is almost running the company right now. He had sold the business off, but it's because this one key employee it allowed him to step back and create more value when he sold the business. And there was an interesting story that he told me that he was out on, this is one of the team leaders, they were out on a job. They do non-destructive testing. Does anybody understand what that is? I don't still. I worked with the guy for 12 years, I think. And all I know is that they work in the waste to energy field, right? And with companies that burn garbage and turn it into electricity. So they would go in once a year, inspect these big boilers to make sure that they don't blow up, bottom line. So, but all their issues are the same as every one of my clients, right? And we're using the same thing. We just modify it to their industry and their business. So, you know, within them, there was one time they were down on the, they were cleaning up, they were getting ready for the next shift. And the plant manager saw them and it was like, wow, what's going on down there? So he calls the guy up and he's like worried. He's like, what did we do wrong? Right. And then the first thing that the plant manager says is, what's wrong with your team? And now he's really worried. Right. And it's like, what do you mean? What do we did? And it's like, you guys are always moving. You're always focused. And it's like usually between shifts, you know, I see that there's the old guy, the old shift is slacking off. The new guys are just sort of wandering around. You guys are like in synergy and working with that. And I see there's no interruption from one shift or another. How do you do that? It's amazing, right? And it's because their team is aligned towards their common goal and the culture within the organization. Because if they bring somebody on to this team and they don't fit the culture, the team members will let the boss know immediately and the guy's gone, right? And that's amazing. That's what happens when you have a totally aligned and a totally engaged team. So I hope that makes sense to everybody here. So just want to end up with this last couple of slides here and really talk about the cycle of business. So really it starts off with the owner or the leader of the organization. And a lot of times is, you know, we're starting up a department or whatever, and the leader is focusing everything, or the business owner is focusing all their time in their business. And then they can't they run out of time. So then it's, oh, I need to have more team members come in, and who gets lost in the crowd is the customer. Nobody's thinking about the customer. But when we're creating an engaged team, the job of the owner or the leader, what their focus needs to be in is, how do I serve my team? How do I serve my team? By providing them with the right compensation, the right benefits, the right training, the right goals and vision, right? Then the team comes in and they support the customers. They're the problem solvers. They're helping them get what they want, right? Alleviate the pain or give them something what they want. So now the customers are happy and the customer serves the business. Why? By doing more business with us, referring business to us, by paying their bills on time. So now it allows the business to support the business owner, the leaders in the organization, whether it's by creating more value for the business or bonuses or whatnot. And, you know, and so we have really a synergistic flow of really is what is happening within the organization. And it really that creates synergy, right? And what is synergy? Is 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 2, but it equals 3, 4, 5, 6. And you get so much more when you have a synergistic, engaged team working together. Every employee is now a profit center within the organization. I said that one to somebody and he took offense to it and says, oh, it's a natural, it comes naturally by uplifting our employees and giving them worthwhile work. So I hope everything here made some sense. My goal here was to help you walk away with 1 or 2 ideas that you could start applying into your business tomorrow to really to increase engagement within your organizations. I'll leave you with this final quote from Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach, my business mentor. He says, where you're going to be within 3 to 5 years is going to really depend on the books you read, the people you associate, and the actions you can take. So at this point, there's really 2 actions that you can go. There's 2 directions that you can go. You know, one, you could say, hey, Steve, this is great. Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try this on my own. I appreciate all this information. This is great stuff. Or you could say, hey, I'm really motivated. I want to get massive results in my business, and I really want to create an engaged team. So what do we need to do? So what's the next step? What are my options, Steve? How can you help me within here? Well, what I suggest for you is, let's take the information that you learned here today, and which is more general in nature, and try to apply it into your business through a free strategy session I'm going to offer. So go to this URL right now, www.strategysessions.com. I'm going to post this link again in the chat for you to copy it. From there, just go ahead and link on it. And then we're going to sit down, we're going to look at your business, and we're going to talk about how you apply this information. And at that time, if you think it makes sense, you want to learn how I can help you implement these things, then we will take that to the next step. So because by working with me as your coach, you're going to really be learning how to generate more cash flow, more profits, more teamwork, and really free up your time so you could focus on where you bring the most value into your organization. And it's doing the owner's work, the leader's work, instead of the employee work. So again, the ways to be able to do that is go ahead and schedule that free strategy session. And I want to end up by thanking you very much. And these are some different ways that you could connect with me. There's my phone number, my website. Most of us, I think, are already connected on LinkedIn. You can go ahead and set up that strategy session. And again, here is the link to get that, the free DISC assessment, that basic DISC assessment, to find out what your communication style is. So with that, is there any questions? It seems we don't have any questions right now. So I want to wish you guys much success, happiness, and prosperity in the year ahead. Thank you.